that. Yeah, no, really. Thanks for giving the opportunity to be here and to present. And I'll be honest, when I was asked if I could present, I think I was a bit misleading saying that the title would be called Investor Sustainability Reporting and Machine Learning. I'll be honest, I have less on machine learning. This presentation really is a call for help for this audience, as in, please come and give us the solutions so that we can make better use of the data that we generate for the system. And therefore, this presentation, I'll really focus on describing what is the information that we produce and analyze ourselves, what are the insights and metrics we create. And hopefully along the way, I can showcase some of the gaps that are there. And maybe some in this audience or the related fields could come afterwards and let us know what we could do. Yeah, in this presentation, I'll really be talking about not sustainability reporting. Most people know about corporate sustainability reporting. We've always had in recent history, we've had a good eye on the companies. How much are they emitting? What are they doing? But we at PRI are focusing on investors. What are investors doing when it comes to sustainability? So it's a very different unit of analysis. And in case others are not aware, PRI, Principles for Responsible Investment, currently has 5,000 investors globally within the membership base. They include investment managers like BlackRock, asset owners like pension funds across the world. And PRI overall, across its operations, is trying to assist and help all of these investors in terms of in their sustainability journeys. In terms of recent history, quite many investors, I like the earlier presentation on scenario analysis, and not many investors have these in their toolbox when it comes to understanding the impacts of their portfolios, and some do. Some are very advanced when it comes to understanding the future of our climate and how it impacts the portfolio. So this is the membership base. And I'll really just be zooming in on what is PRI doing when it comes to the information collection of these investors. What do we know about them, and what are we doing to hopefully ask the questions in the future to know what we should know about them? So it's a revolving reporting framework. It's not a static one. It's one that continuously develops. But before I talk about PRIs, I'll mention a little bit more on the market overall. PRI used to historically be the main entity that since around 2009, 2014 has been forcing disclosure on investment managers and asset owners. But there's been a growth. As I mentioned earlier, we've had a strong focus on corporate reporting, but in the last few years, there's been a rising increase across jurisdictions and other frameworks to ask these asset managers and asset owners more about their sustainability. And so it's up for the market now to come together and figure out, okay, how do we achieve interoperability? How do we make sure at the high level we're all asking the same questions so that henceforth we can each innovate with the more advanced questions that are appropriate for each respective organization to then ask. And so it's a evolving field. It's not just PRI who's creating the data, it's others too. There's a lot of information now coming out. The only things I'll focus on for context is PRI is global. So it's the only one that really has a global base of information, and it's organizational level. So it's not, for those who are thinking fund level information, so what is the carbon emissions of this particular fund, that's not what PRI is about. PRI is asking organizational level information. What is BlackRock or Vanguard? What is their overall strategy when it comes to issues such as net zero and related issues? There's a lot of issues, and that's where I'll come to this item here. PRI asks these investors a lot of questions on their environmental and social and governance commitments, and you'll see we don't have time to really go through it all, but it's a very unique reporting framework in the sense that the whole investor base is not homogeneous. Each particular investor is very different. Some are hedge fund focused, some are listed equity focused, some only in fixed income, some have it all. So it's a very unique framework in the sense that it's designed, because it's very logic heavy, to enable the reporting of all the entities that are out there. There's always room for improvement, but that's one major item that makes it unique, guarantees that it will continue evolving to ask the information that is relevant to those institutions. If you think about, for example, climate, you'll see highlighted there in the top that PRI's reporting framework has a lot of questions on climate. It'll ask such as, what is your climate horizon? It'll ask, what about scenario analyses? What types do you do? I wish I was personally an expert on that one, but there's a lot there that has been asked in the past, but these are also items that continue evolving. So there are something called the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance and Net Zero Asset Managers as well. And these are other reporting frameworks that are specialized in climate questions. And PRI's framework overall evolves to make sure that next year it will also ask the most relevant climate information as far as our expectations go within the investment community. So at an issue perspective, the reporting framework asks everything, not just on climate. You'll see there on the right, human rights, PRI's new focus area. But what I'm mentioning there in terms of what does it all mean is how a financial institution takes into consideration climate risks will of course be very different from entities that own just listed equity, so the stock market, or fixed income corporate bonds, or municipalities, or sovereign entities. Hedge funds as well have a very different approach to investment. So the way they approach climate issues is very different. Overall, I believe we should all make sure they all care about climate, but it's more as in like how they can, given their different operations. That's where the industry is still doing its best to move forwards across these areas, or specifically asset classes. I don't, sorry, just mindful of time. Why does this information matter? In case you're not aware, I think it's for context really good that we understand companies, who's on the right climate path, who's investing in CapEx, OpEx type rightful solutions so that they hit the 2050 targets that globally we impose upon them. But with financial institutions, it's a bit different. There are many stakeholders, but one is, for example, asset owners. So it's about giving the information so that asset owners can select investment managers that are advanced on sustainability. So this was one of our early research papers with academics a few years ago, where we tried to understand whether PRI's reporting framework was doing its job effectively. And what we could see that whenever PRI disclosed information on the advanced institutions, you could see that capital was being allocated from asset owners, institutional investors, towards these asset managers that were advanced. So that's where this information is truly valuable in the market. So capital is being directed in the right place. And that will be through quantitative responses and qualitative responses. And that's why I'll now give you a sense of, I'll give you, sorry, just quickly pause over here to re-highlight the earlier point that it's been, even for me, quite a learning curve to understand the nuances, because it's very easy to generalize and say this is what we should expect from investors when it comes to climate issues. But each one, whether they be fund managers, fund of funds, insurance companies, wealth management, and there on the right, you'll see that things become very unique. Central banks, trade unions. It does matter quite a lot what type of institution you are. And PRI investor base is a lot of different types of institutions. But yes, again, back to the data. Here you'll just see one example of a data point. So it will be asking, in this case, from the investors, what are the global recognized frameworks which your sustainability outcomes policies refer to? SDG goals and targets, UN guiding principles on business and human rights. And this is just a few examples. There's a lot on climate there as well, such as the immediate policy response framework. And that is just one small example of the many other questions that are there. This is all public information. It's within the PRI's data portal. These are within something called the transparency report. So these are intended for public consumption. But as you'll see there on the left-hand side, there's a lot of this information. Depending how you look at it, it'll be up to 258 to 400 indicators. So it's already quite heavy duty to go and understand who's whom by simply the quantitative information. And this is the moment where I'll just pause for a second and just clarify. I wish I had a better slide to convey this, but PRI's reporting framework across these topics and these specific questions that you see here, there will be a lot of qualitative information, a lot of narrative. And so this is the one where PRI and entities similar to PRI are struggling in the sense that we have fairly good NLP, ML, AI tools, but because of the nature of the data being logic heavy and continuously changing and market standards evolve very fast, it's really challenging to invest in a solution that enables users, whether it be asset owners or signatories or researchers, to immediately compare and contrast these signatories with each other. So this is really just the big ask here, which is I'll skip a few slides to just say that all of this information that I mentioned is within PRI's data portal. It's all public, and you'll see what I mean when it comes to those qualitative responses. If you go and check your own pension fund, you'll see that they will have disclosed a lot of narrative information. And we don't have the tech solutions or data solutions to really help when it comes to comparability. We've noticed major user demand from a variety of stakeholders where they're like, okay, I see. We need to have a better strategy or policy or governance within our climate commitments. Show me what good looks like. And that's where it gets tough. So there are some solutions for corporate data where they will have some type of machine learning tool where they're showing snippets and examples of what good looks like. But in terms of investor reporting, we're kind of not there yet. So even just a great starting point would be, in my opinion, very valuable. I'll just end with one last slide to hopefully is of interest. Where can that all come in to help out? Well, it's in the assessments. PRI makes this information public, the quantitative information, and that quantitative information is made into scores. So at the end of the reporting cycle, each of these financial institutions will receive a grade at the end of it. And it's not a holistic, there is no one grade. There are 35 different grades because from the current framework's perspective, the standards for being a good ESG investor in private equity and real estate, listed equity, selection of asset managers, these are different activities. So you get grades across these activities, and that is the report card they receive at the end of the cycle. And that is what they use to learn themselves and develop their policies. So we have a good process that helps institutions zoom in on the quantitative information because these grades are based and used through that. But using the qualitative information, the one that truly describes an organization's processes from a kind of intensive margin, that's not where we're at the moment. And I hope we can get there as soon as possible. I've run out of time, and yeah, thanks again for having me.
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to briefly introduce our third speaker, who is William White, a senior fellow with the